So the day has come to an end. Um, with the end of the day, it gives me a little bit of time to reflect on things that have happened, things that are to come, and my place in that. I can only ever exist in the present, but I can use the present as a tool, using the insights gained from the past to plan out a better future. And one of the pieces of dissonance that I'm facing right now is in the Dhammadicha meditation hall that I was enrolled in for 10 days. The number one thing that was key to using the Vipassana technique that they taught was detachment from, I want to say desire, and yes, that is technically correct, but the way that they were teaching it is detachment from reaction to sensation. If you have a negative craving, whenever there's a sensation in the body, there is either going to be craving for it in the future. That was a delicious cheeseburger. I want another one. Or there will be aversion. Ow, I stubbed my toe. Why do furniture exist? Uh, so I guess it boils down to fear and greed. Those two things stem from sensations. When you feel pain, if you were to just take a moment and instead of reacting with pain as a negative thing, just experience it as a sensation that will pass. Instead of facing a positive with absolute joy, because that too will pass, and the desire for that can actually lead to addiction. The wise thing to do, according to their teaching, is going to be, again, distance yourself from those things and observe them. The underlying philosophy is that everything is temporary. This too shall pass. It is anicca, anicca. Uh, that being said, there is no sense in attaching yourself to these things which are ephemeral, even in the ephemeral lifespan of a single lifetime. Now, that's all well and good. And when it comes to the day in, day out of like meditating, doing the whole monk thing, it's not something that I'd be averse to per se. It's just that at this stage in life, I noticed something. It's that all of these spiritual leaders either started from and actively rejected or came into wealth while they were going through their path in life. The teacher of the course, S.N. Goenka, he comes from the background of a merchant. He made a lot of money, had a lot of business connections, and then chose to renounce that in favor, or I don't know to what extent he actually renounces it. Uh, he could have a secret offshore bank account. I don't know and I don't care. The point is he has it and it's his to choose whether he keeps it or not. Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, he chose the he was born into the noble life of a prince and chose otherwise. It reminds me of the old, it's not even really a it's kind of a thought experiment. The So the old saying goes, it's better to have and not need than it is to need not have. Take that and apply it in a moral sense, in almost a negative moral sense. So, a metaphor is going to be God has angels. He also wants humans to worship them, to worship him. And arguably, the following of humanity is more important because humanity is able to choose. We have free will. So, because of this ability to choose, our decision to follow is arguably more valuable. In some ways, it can be seen as more sincere because we can choose to do so. Take this line of thought and apply it to a really hard-assed fighter or something. Lived a life of crime, beats up everybody, shanks them, their mom, their grandma, extorts children for their lunch money, stuff like that. And he's a really big, buff, bad dude. He could beat you up with a pinky if he wanted to, just as an example. This guy decides to become a pacifist. No violence. He renounces his violent ways and will only treat things with peace, love, and kindness. That is good. Now, take his wimpy next door neighbor, the kid he went to high school with or whatever. A little scrawny beanpole, really nice kid. Has never really hurt anyone. Was shy, kept to himself, but couldn't win a fight if he wanted to. In fact, even normal kids can shake down this kid for his lunch money and probably have. Uh, the point is, he couldn't choose to harm anyone or anything if he wanted to. He also chooses to be a pacifist. This guy can be seen as weak, and the people making that claim aren't necessarily incorrect because he can't really choose otherwise. I mean, he can in the sense that anyone can be anything if you really buy into the whole everyone can be anything kind of. Point is, the Beanpole Kid's decision to become a pacifist is less valuable because he doesn't have an established track history. He doesn't have a track record, even with himself. My whole point in bringing that up is, as a guy who comes from not a lot of wealth, not a lot of material backing, and has always had large portions of his life that are characterized actively by not having enough. Cream, cash rules everything around me, get the money. And then never really getting the money in a meaningful way. I feel like if I were to go down the path of renunciation, I would be missing something. I'm not as I would be feeling that I weren't quite proving that I could in a sense. And not even just that I could in like abstract or even a practical sense. It almost feels like a moral obligation because even in a spiritual sense, monetary well-being is linked to virtue. If we were to go into the cycles of reincarnation, you do good deeds, you get good results, you're reincarnated in a better, higher station in life. Now, when I hear that, the first thing I think of is, okay, what was ancient India like? Oh, rigid caste system, no capitalism, no social mobility. You're born poor, you die poor. Your only shot at a way up in life is this hope at another shot in another one. Being a capitalist, I have the ability to, at least theoretically, move to a higher station in life. So I don't really see that specific part being applicable to me. But the whole point is, it is an option, and I feel like I will be less of a well-developed, well-rounded person if I don't experience that first. Which leads me to what I'm currently doing, reading books like Think and Grow Rich. Well, I can't say it leads me to there because I was actually thinking of it while I was meditating because of the cognitive dissonance. The whole point of Think and Grow Rich is to promote the desire and back it by faith and lean into, embrace that desire wholeheartedly until you get the object of that desire. That is completely backwards to these. They say it's non-sectarian, so I can't say it's quite Buddhist, but uh, I'll just say to the technique of Vipassana and probably Buddhism as I understand it. So, yeah, those are just some thoughts. How I'm going to reconcile them. Go for broke for the cash. Because the only logical thing to do is to have it first and then decide whether I want to keep it. So, you know the old saying about a rich man not being able to pass. I'm sorry, about the camel being able to pass through the eye of the needle, but a rich man not being able to make it into heaven. Uh, that same saying was quoted by Goenka, so I think the Buddhists also have that saying. Basically, if you have money, you can't get into heaven. We'll see if there is a heaven. I'm pretty sure that, like, you know, might be able to grease a few palms. I mean, if I donate enough to charity, tithe 10%, 10% is 10%, but, like, you know, 10% of a really big pie versus 10% of, like, a $2 pot pie, you know. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, I'll keep you updated. I'll talk to you later.